want to talk about the Sunstar. There was huge. It was launched late last year around the sponsorship. It was sponsored by Sun International. What was your response to that?
Well, look, it's actually leading on from our last point, is that the point of this shape, which is both very basic and also quite complex, is that it's only around the notion of if you're able to look at your crisis or your problem or your challenge in a different way, or from a different perspective, you may have a whole new spectrum of solutions that you never had before. So really it's around perception. And so the anchorage with the Robben Island fencing in our past is quite brutal, it's rusty, but the liberation of that is perhaps the other side of the coin. So it's around holding the duality of this. It's by no means trying to just overcome our past with some sort of positive message. It's very much deeply ingrained in our history. It's deeply ingrained with how we got here, the road to how we got here. And that holds the anchor point to being able to leave the perch, to the flight or the projection of this LED lighting, the projection of this bright future for South Africa as the gateway to Africa, or Africa as a continent, as a solution for the emerging world.
Now, people were upset about the logo, the Sun International logo in the middle of the artwork. Do you think that corporate sponsorship has a place in public art?
I think at the moment it's the only place. It's the only thing that's going to fund, especially in such a small part of the art world. Unless it meets an agenda of a corporate sponsor. In this case, I have to say that it's been a rather soft agenda in that this came out of the Sun International's CSI program. So this was so that we were quite kind in the way that this was dealt with. It was largely dealt with as an artwork piece by itself. Right. Obviously, Sun International wanted to also align themselves to their vision, and everything that this work stands for is what they align themselves to, and it's where they see the company going in the future, which is the beacon of hope. This kind of their integrated purpose in South Africa and in Africa, and what that means to the world. So there's all these extended attachments to that. But until the city, until more other benefactors can come into that space and help artists, because there's not enough funding for artists. There's fantastic talent in South Africa and on this continent, but never enough funding to be able to compete with the guys that are doing stuff in Europe or in the States or in Seoul or in Korea, even in Brazil. So where's it going to come from is the question. And then the relationship between how how free that relationship is it comes down to each negotiation between the artist and the benefactor.
Now I want to come back to the funding in just a moment, but Daxs, what's your opinion on corporate sponsorship in public art?
Well, look, this has been a long journey. Chris started this particular art project 3 years ago, and I've been with him on that journey the whole way. So I've seen the hard work that he's put in. I've seen how many people he's spoken to, how many meetings he's been to, how many ideas he's pitched, how many sponsors he's spoken to. And after 3 years, got to the point where it wasn't going to happen. And it was only when Sun International came on board that it actually happened. So for me, as Chris said, without the corporate sponsorship, these things are not going to happen. It wouldn't have happened. And I think that the dialogue that's come out of it, the enjoyment that people have had, the fact that we've had thousands of people going on to Signal Hill who would normally not go up there, people who live in the city, I think it's been a great inclusive artwork. It's accessible, it's interesting, it's different, and so if Sun International had to come on board, then they had to come on board. And it's unfortunate perhaps that we have to rely on corporate sponsorship. I'm sure it would be wonderful if we could have complete free reign to be art for art's sake, but unfortunately we're not in that situation.
Now, Chris, you mentioned, continue.
I also wanted to draw to light that Sun International were able to see the vision once it was developed to that point, but there were literally thousands of people involved in getting this idea up the hill. There was the solar panels, for instance, were a Joburg company called Aldo. The city of Cape Town were very involved in it. There's about 6 or 7 departments that have been involved in this. The World Design Capital, with which which it wouldn't have been possible even for this thinking within a large kind of city, even as progressive as Cape Town is. It understands that it's a big tanker moving in a certain direction. The sandparks, the South African Heritage Resource Agency, the Western Cape Heritage. There are so many departments and people and individuals and small sponsors buying a light bulb to see this legacy project go. So there's been such an enormous amount of will, but eventually to the point that it does need a big sponsor to let that happen. And in that act, all of that kind of positive will, then actually the light gets turned on finally, and then you get to the critical mass, and then it's rather than it just being this idea, it becomes, it kind of seeds itself, and then it happens, and now we're very lucky to see it up, on top of Signal Hill for everyone to enjoy.